Great Afro Migration. And then I'm going to talk about some of the problems diasporas are experiencing when they travel abroad. And it's not one particular country, but it is the continent of Apulan. So we're going to make sure that we are addressing those things. But I do want to say we are not perfect. We are all in transition. We are learning, we are exploring, we are experiencing different things. So it's been a challenge. America wasn't the only place that was colonized. Africa was colonized, and before um, being taken as prisoners of war in our own land, you had to deal with the rise and fall of many great nations. So, definitely, the lines have been skewed, and now we're in a position to reposition ourselves. And the best way to do that is to have total transparency. I'm so grateful that we've developed a new initiative called the Great Afro Migration Tribunal. So, this tribunal will be in 6 regions: north, south, east, west, and the sixth region, central, and the sixth region is the Afro diaspora community. So this is going to be the focus moving forward. And I do want to remind you that, of course, you know these things already, but we're in the process of making sure that we're positioning ourselves. I think so many things are happening. And I just want to be a resource, give some words of encouragement, and to say life truly is a beautiful, beautiful mess. It certainly is. And it's not just on the continent, it's everywhere. I want to talk a little bit about empowering colonized communities. But before I get into that, I want to address the elephant in the room. And there's conversations about this new drug called Kush. It's a synthetic drug, and you smoke it, and people are using with it human bones. The human bones could contain embalming fluid, fentanyl, or if someone died, was on like pain pills. So people are using this drug and adding these human bones to this drug. And I was just talking to my great, great friends in the Gambia who are commissioners, and I was expressing my concern about what's happening on the ground with the deaths of American women. And I also alerted them to the fact and said, this is something you need to look out for. I know it's in Sierra Leone and perhaps it's coming your way. And lo and behold, they said it is already here. People are dying. So be on alert. In Gambia, it is no different than the war on drugs in America, and it was an epidemic, and people had some serious addictions, and it affect the economy as well as the people in those communities. It was widespread. So you should be alert and you should be aware that this drug exists, it's affecting people, and it's also causing them to be transient. And I was just put on the alert today, is creating a lot of issues for the police and citizens. So let me get to the reason why I'm doing this talk today. It's about how do we empower colonized communities? So people across the globe face systemic barriers that hinder their access to equitable opportunities. And it's not just limiting ourselves to America, but Africa as well was colonized. And so we need to understand the ramifications of colonization and how we move forward as a group of people. We want to look at the barriers that hinder our access to equitable opportunities and the required resources. In our pursuit of justice and equality, it becomes imperative for us to address the entrenched disparities perpetrated by systems of oppression. At the heart of the struggle lies the quest for equity and access. And what are those systems of oppression? Could be access to money and lending, could be healthcare barriers, all of those things that contribute to disparities in our communities. So the trap is without protection. And we're saying that when you have this mindset of capitalism is a beacon of progress and prosperity, it often proves to be a double edged sword for our communities. While it promises us economic growth and innovation, capitalism operates with a framework that inherently marginalizes certain groups. Moreover, the legal protection it offers is often skewed in favor of those who are privileged, leaving the colonized individual vulnerable to exploitation and disenfranchisement. So, when you think about the vulnerabilities and the exploitation, prime example of the narratives and things happening in Africa. So, there is a need, and in order to fill the need, there's levels of desperation, and people will often do what they need to do to take care of themselves and to take care of their family. So, along with that comes human trafficking, sexual exploitation, and of course, requires them to self medicate, whether it be pills, whether it be cocaine, whether it be laced marijuana. Eventually, that drug will not be enough. You may start off with marijuana, but sooner or later, people graduate who are in this sex profession. They will eventually graduate into a stronger drug. So, the catalyst for progress is going to be working to dismantle injustices. And within that comes our ability to pursue equity and access by ensuring that resources and opportunities and rights are distributed fairly and exclusively in societies that can begin to operate at a level in that playing field. So we want to be able to enlarge the borders, expand how we do business, and then be able to level the opportunities we have. So that's going to be how to tap into equity and access that will empower colonized communities to participate fully in social, economic, and political spheres, thereby challenging the status quo and fostering genuine progress. So, our goal is to be in alignment and put ourselves in a position so that we are growing, we are developing, and such as life. You know, life is a beautiful mess. It's a beautiful mess. So we have to take the opportunity to give us the space that we need for growth and development. And we also need to give our brothers and sisters grace, you know, because living with trauma and being traumatized when it comes to systemic racism and racial trauma, it takes a lot of effort and energy to overcome these challenges and obstacles. So we need to do that by preparing the table for ourselves. We need to start rejecting this notion of asking for permission. So we find ourselves oftentimes in a position of begging to partake in the very same system that oppresses us. So now it is time to shift this paradigm. Instead of seeking validation from oppressive structures, we must prepare the table for ourselves. The metaphorical table represents not only access to resources and opportunities, but also the assertion of our inherent rights and dignity. we have a right to the table. So we have to make sure that we are setting the standards and we're not constantly begging to get what belongs to us. We need to position ourselves and we can create a space of equity and fairness. And in order to do that, we have to think about what forgiveness means, not to the person who done you wrong, but to yourself. How can forgiveness serve as a poignant reminder about historical injustice that we've been inflicted by the colonizers? So, systemically, we've been disposed of our lands and of our identity. We've been rendered to foreigners. Africa doesn't look at diasporans as being Africans. They look at us as being Westerners and still foreigners. So we are still being rejected by our own kind. So reclaiming what rightfully belongs to us, it requires a steadfast commitment to justice and liberation. So, together as a team, as a unit, we can start combating what colonization did to Africa and African people. We need to do that by claiming what belongs to us: the land, the resources, the rights. They are ours by birthright, not by grace of conquerors or our oppressors. It is our right. We need to reclaim our agency and sovereignty. We must be willing to go wherever necessary to assert our rightful claims. This entails challenging oppressive structures, amplifying our voices, and forging solidarity and communities and borders. The pursuit of equity and access is not merely a quest for equality. It is a fundamental human right and moral imperative. As colonized peoples, we must stand and unite in our demand for justice, dignity, and self determination. Only through our collective action and unwavering resolve can we create a world where equity and access are not mere aspirations. So, our goal is to make sure that we are progressing and that we are seeking solutions that will allow us to collectively come together. And it's important to understand that we are not in a position to point fingers at one another. It is that we should be offering one another grace, that unconditional grace that cannot be measured. We have so many challenges. It's an uphill battle to get where we need to be. So it's not just us against ourselves, but it's us against those who have placed us in this predicament. And it's many of them who, under the right circumstance, right condition, will support our efforts and will come together and join hand in hand with us in this fight for equity and access. I want you to remember that there is a lot of dynamics happening in this political world today, particularly in Africa. Africa has all the resources the world needs. And I don't want us to take it lightly that strong economies are now struggling. And so they are in a fight for Africa. And that's why you have this overwhelming amount of drugs, alcohol, high STD rates, HIV, um, unwedded mothers with children, young children. And so I wanted to come on today just to express that things are set into motion, but it's up to us to come together to work as a team. And if you haven't liked or subscribed to this channel, please do so. Hit that notification button so that you will be notified of the Great Afro Migration tribunal activities that will be coming forth. Thank you so much and have a great day.